want to give you the opportunity to have a lawyer, to hire one, and you're asking for that.
Yes.
All right, so you understand, sir, by asking for an adjournment, we will not have the hearing held within 21 days of your arraignment. If I adjourn it, that means it's going to be put off into the future, and therefore it'll be outside that 21-day time period. You understand that?
Yes.
And you have a statutory right to have this hearing held within 21 days of your arraignment. You're not giving up your right to have the hearing. You, by asking for adjournment, are giving up the right to have it held within 21 days. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Just want to be clear. That's what you want to do?
Yes.
All right. So I'll adjourn the matter one time to give you an opportunity to hire a lawyer. It will not be used as a dilatory tactic, meaning just a delay. So you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So I'll give you that chance. We'll have it reset. We need another probable cause conference. Ms. Farrell?
I would request that in this case, Your Honor. We did make an offer to the defendant. I believe if he had retained counsel, it may result in a waiver of the preliminary exam, and it would avoid having to subpoena witnesses. We do have out-of-state witnesses on this case, so I would request that.
All right. So, Mr. Cabrera, I'm going to have it set for another probable cause conference. Who do you intend to hire? Do you have any idea?
Yes. Most likely it's going to be Matt Castle.
All right. Well, make sure Mr. Casel knows that that we're scheduling it for another probable cause conference in the event that you retain him. And that probable cause conference will be December 21?
Judge,
No?
No, because if we're going to set it back in front of us, we can't.
Yeah, so when's that next one?
January 23rd.
All right, that's fine. So January 23 is our PC?
Yes, at 9:30 is
All
the
right,
PD.
so our probable cause conference in this case will be January 23, 2017. Well, that's the prelim?
Yes.
Okay, we got to back up. We need a probable cause conference.
And I don't know when to put that in. Can you help me there, Mary? How far previous? We're going to set it on a Monday, the prelim on January 23rd.
The probable causes are usually Wednesday or Thursday the week before.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter. You could set the probable cause. I don't know how long it's going to take him to retain Mr. Casel, but
Well, this gives him
right.
more
But if
than
the
a month,
probable cause was even longer set out, if he's waiving his 21 days, then it doesn't really matter the length of time between the two.
Let's just do it let's set it the previous Wednesday.
Okay.
So
That would be the 18th.
all right, your preliminary examination is going to be scheduled for Monday, January 23, 2017 at
9:30.
9:30 in the morning. Your probable cause conference will be Wednesday, January 18, 2017 at 2 p.m. Probable cause conferences are held in the conference rooms just outside of this courtroom on the second floor here. Understand? All right, so make sure Mr. Casel, if you retain him or any other lawyer that you might retain, gets this document. I won't adjourn the matter again. All right? All right. Okay, so same bond is continued. We'll see you back here on January 18 and January 23, Mr. Cabrera. All right. Anything else, Mr. Farrell?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll get you those documents, Mr. Cabrera. Are we ready, Mr. Hilson?
I just need to unpack a few things.
Yeah, and I need to get some documents and some of the other stuff. Mr. Hostake, you ready to roll?
Yes.
All right.
I tried calling Carrie Burns to see if she had somebody, and she said that she didn't get back to her.
She knows.
I just want to let everyone know, if you're not with a media organization, cell phones have to be shut off. You can't take any videos or pictures. So, will be confiscated if they go off or proceed with them.
The prelim started on Tuesday, right?
That's Tuesday. Tuesday, Friday, Monday, today.
It'll be short.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure you got that in there. Sure, I'll do that. Okay. Okay. This I'm not too concerned about. I'm just not really I don't want that. Yeah, right. No, I
All rise. 60th District Court now resumes. You may be seated.
All right, we are back on the record in the People of the State of Michigan versus Jeffrey Thomas Willis. The file number is 16180-186FY, and we are continuing the preliminary examination on this matter. I believe Mr. Hilson yesterday afternoon had rested, and Mr. Hostek had asked for some time to present some evidence, and I granted him that opportunity. So, Mr. Hostek, is the defense ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may.
The defense calls Lieutenant Kasher to the stand.
You raise your right hand. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give the court's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
You have a seat. You please state and spell your name for the court record and give your application.
It's Lieutenant Michael Kasher, Kasher. I'm a lieutenant with the Norton Shores Police Department.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant.
Good afternoon.
You are the lead investigator in this disappearance of Jessica Heeringa case, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You arrived on the scene the very night of the incident, correct?
That's correct.
Was that about 12:15?
It's about right.
Okay.
On the Saturday morning there part.
Saturday morning?
Yes.
The next day? The
Yes.
27th.
That's correct.
Officers Ginka and Hoaxema were already on scene.
That's correct.
Were they the only two on scene when you arrived?
No, I believe Sergeant Poole was there also.
Okay. They filled you in on the status of the situation when you arrived, correct?
Correct. That's correct.
And do you agree with Officer Hoaxema's assessment that there were... Let me back up. Let me strike that. You did your own walk around and checking on things after you arrived, correct?
That's correct.
And you agree with the assessment that there did not appear to be any sign of a struggle?
Inside the store?
Inside the store.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you arrived, you eventually had the opportunity to interview Susan Follett and Eric Barber?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, they weren't there when you arrived?
They might have been, but I was focused on the scene at the time, and I didn't really want to talk to anybody other than talking to the officers and kind of understanding what went on before I start talking to who was there.
Okay. But eventually you did interview Susan Follett?
That's correct.
And Eric Barber?
Yes, sir.
And was Mr. Harpster there also?
He was there, but I did not talk to him then.
Okay. You went outside the back of the Exxon station, correct?
Correct.
Is it true that the door was propped open, the back door?
When I was there?
Yes.
It was, but that was done by, I believe, Corporal Hoaxema.
Okay. But you don't know whether it was closed when Corporal Hoaxema arrived?
He told me it was.
Okay.
And same with Officer Ginka. They told me that it was, because that was one of my questions.
Okay. But you had a chance to examine the blood spot found in the back, correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
All right. And when you looked at it, it was dry, correct?
Go off the words of Corporal Hoaxema, it appeared dried. I did not touch it.
Okay. Well, you wrote in your report that it was dry.
Yeah. Okay, I probably did, but it appeared dried. I did not touch it, but we did the procedure of lifting the blood with distilled water on a swab. So.
Okay. And you obviously wanted to know how long that blood had been there.
That's correct.
And you called the state crime lab for help with that, right?
That's correct.
And in the end, you were not able to determine how long that blood was there.
They stated to me they were unable to determine. They couldn't give me a time frame knowing when the blood was deposited.
Okay. But you told them it was dry, and basically how long does it take for blood to dry, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. And they told you it would have to be there for more than an hour, is that right?
They said it could be there for an hour. Depends on the way it was, because I was trying to describe it like a smear, and they said, well, it's how big. They were just giving me general information without looking at pictures and being out there themselves.
Okay.
So.
At some point, I think going by your report, I think it was while you were talking to Susan Follett that a guy named Jess Ammerman was stopped driving by the Exxon station. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He was in a rapid router van, correct?
That's correct.
Driving down the service drive to the west of the Exxon station when he was stopped?
I'm not sure if he was on the service drive. I know I thought he was on Sternberg Road when he was stopped.
Oh, okay. But Susan ran out and stopped him, right?
That's correct. Yes.
While you were talking to her?
I was talking with somebody, but she ran out there to stop him.
Okay. After she stopped him, you interviewed him, right?
That's correct.
In fact, he was interviewed several times after that night.
That's correct, yes.
Why is that?
I guess if we want to classify it, he was a person of interest to me at that point in time.
Why was he a person of interest to you?
My initial interview, well, initially, when I'm giving them the facts when I was at the store, his name was brought up that he was always around. He was always there, and that was somebody that I probably should need to talk to.
Do you know why he was always there?
Initially or later when I found out.
Why was he always there?
Well, I found out.
Objection, Judge, it's going to call for hearsay.
All right, Mr. House.
This man was in a romantic relationship with Miss Heeringa, and it's not hearsay to ask the officer why he had such an interest in any particular individual. I mean, it's admitted and it comes from several different sources, so I don't think it's hearsay.
Well, the fact that a piece of information comes from several different sources doesn't make it not hearsay. I have to understand, why is it not hearsay?
Well, I can try to rephrase the question, Judge.
All right, so it sounds like it calls for hearsay, so I'll sustain the objection, but I'll let you rephrase as well.
Okay. But you had a particular interest in this man, Jess Ammerman, because he was always around the Exxon station.
That's correct.
Do you know why he was always around?
That he knew Jessica fairly well.
Okay. Do you know how long he had known her?
Judge, I guess my objection is that we're dancing around where this information is coming from. Unless Lieutenant Casher physically saw this with his own eyes and can say that, that's one thing, versus I talked to so-and-so, or I talked to this person, or I talked to Jess Ammerman myself, and he told me this. I think we need to get that. Where is he getting this information? If it's from a third party, then that's hearsay. If it's from his own observations, then he can probably testify to that. But Mr. Hoska is skirting the hearsay issue by asking these kind of general open-ended questions. Certainly, as a lead investigator, Lieutenant Casher has a ton of information, but that doesn't mean it was from first-hand knowledge. I'm sure a majority of it was from talking to other people, which, in my mind, is hearsay.
All right, I'll ask a direct question, Your Honor.
All right, so you're going to withdraw that question?
Sure.
And ask a different question?
Yes.
All right.
Did you come to learn that this man had a physical relationship with Jessica Heeringa?
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor.
Sounds like it calls
it's
for
not
hearsay. Listen, Mr. Hosika, I know exactly what you're trying to do. I've been trying cases before. I think what you can ask Detective or Lieutenant Casher is if he has personal knowledge of this. I mean, he can testify from things that he has personal knowledge of, but if it's coming from another person, that's classic hearsay. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I don't agree. Because I have a right to examine the police officer regarding other suspects in this case, and that this man made himself a suspect by making statements against his own interest, which is not hearsay, regarding his relationship with this missing girl.
All right, so let's analyze this one step at a time. You're asserting that it's a statement against interest.
Correct.
All right, and what's the rule and what's your authority?
It's one of the hearsay exceptions, Judge. I don't have my evidence book with me at the moment, but I think the court's aware that a statement against penal interest is an exception to the hearsay rule.
It certainly is under 804.
Yes.
There are some precursors to 804. Unavailability is one of those precursors to admit evidence as a statement against penal interest under 804. So let's examine it. Right under 804B3, a statement against interest is admissible. It is hearsay, but it is admissible. If the statement was at the time of its making so far contrary to the declarant's pecuniary or proprietary interests, or so far tended to subject the declarant to civil or criminal liability, or to render invalid a claim by the declarant against another, that a reasonable person in the declarant's position would not have made the statement unless believing it to be true. Under subsection A of 804A, that's the definition of unavailability. 804B says the following are not excluded by the hearsay rule if the declarant was unavailable as a witness. Sounds like this information came from Jess Ammerman.
Came from several sources.
All right, are those witnesses unavailable?
Today they are, yes.
But their lack of presence here doesn't make them unavailable under the definition. We know that, Mr. Anderson. Unavailability is defined as exempt by a ruling of the court on ground of privilege, or persists in refusing to testify concerning the subject matter despite an order of the court, or has a lack of memory, or is unable to be present or testify at the hearing because of death or then existing physical or mental illness or infirmity, or is absent from the hearing and the proponent of the statement has been unable to procure the declarant's attendance. Are any one of those satisfied?
No.
Okay.
I actually, Judge, can you run through that one more time?
Sure, it's 804A. I'll let you take a look at it.
No.
Right. Well, it sounds like what you're asking Lieutenant Casher to do is give you hearsay. Is there any other exception that you want to consider?
No, Judge, I'll try to move on.
Very well. I'm sustaining the objection.
Okay.
You may proceed, Mr. Costa.
Susan Follett ran out in the street and stopped Mr. Ammerman. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you interviewed him for a time.
That's correct.
In fact, you were talking to him up until the point that Miss Heeringa's live-in boyfriend, Mr. Dyer, arrived, correct?
I'd say so, yes.
And at that moment, did Mr. Ammerman left? Right?
Yes.
Why did he leave?
I told him he was released from the scene. I didn't need him at that point in time.
Right as Mr. Dyer arrived.
Well, I guess I got done with the interview. There was nothing further I could go on with the interview with.
My question is, did you release him right as Mr. Dyer arrived?
Within probably minutes, yes. I'd say so.
He was later that same night interviewed at his home in Kent City by the state police, correct?
That's correct.
That was at your request?
Well, my request to the sergeant from the state police was I wanted him to check the van. There was another vehicle at that location where Mr. Ammerman lived. And that was my request, but he also interviewed. I wasn't really looking for him to go interview, but it ended up being that way.
Okay. And then again, you interviewed Mr. Ammerman the very next day at the Norton Shores Police Department, correct?
That's correct.
And then later on, May 5th, Stacey Atkins Sparks interviewed him?
I assume, yes.
Okay. The next day at Norton Shores, you also interviewed Patty Ammerman, correct?
That's correct.
Who was Patty Ammerman?
At that time, that was Ammerman's wife.
Jess Ammerman?
Jess
Jesse
Ammerman.
Ammerman's wife?
Yes.
And why did you interview Patty Ammerman?
Well, there was information that I learned from Jess Ammerman that I was corroborating his statements based on what she said. And there were some things that he had told me during my interview that I was kind of confronting her with.
Okay. Confronting? Why did you feel you had to confront her with something?
Because she had seen or talked to Jessica Heeringa probably a week prior to the disappearance.
Do you know why that was?
At the gas station, the Exxon gas station.
Do you know why that was?
Yes.
Again, Judge, it's going to call for hearsay.
Well, I don't know. I haven't heard his answer yet.
All right, so I'll allow the answer, and then I'll make a decision. Go ahead, Lieutenant.
Do Can you rephrase that? Can you say that again?
Do you know why she was at the Exxon station talking to Miss Heeringa?
Yes. The reason why she was there is she wanted to see Jessica. She knew that there might have been an affair going on between Jess Ammerman and Jessica, and she wanted to provide her phone to Jessica so she could get a hold of Jess at different times without Dakota knowing about it.
Right, so the objection is the hearsay. Did you get all that information from another person?
I got that from, originally I got that from Jess Ammerman, and then that's my confronting her about that situation, and I got that from Patty Ammerman.
Mr. Hilson?
Yeah, so my objection stands on that, Judge.
Right. Sounds like hearsay to me, Mr. Hostica.
Well, my question was why did he confront her? And I think he's just explaining why, because he heard that she was at the gas station to talk to Jessica.
You just prefaced your comment. He heard that. That's classic hearsay definition, but if there's an exception to that rule,
No, I can move on, Judge.
all right, so I'm sustaining the objection and striking that last answer. I'm not considering that. Go ahead.
And also the next day, on the 27th, you must have had an all-nighter too, by the way, right? On the 27th? Did you get any sleep that night?
I had an all-monther.
An all-monther? Yeah. Okay. But the next day, you also interviewed Robbie Follett.
That's correct.
And you identified him as Susan's sister, or brother, rather, right?
That's correct.
Susan that works at the gas station that we heard from here today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and why did you interview Robbie Follett?
Well, there's a number of reasons there, too. He also knew Jessica Heeringa. Based on his statements to me, and what I heard was that there was an involvement between the two of them.
He was actually interviewed several times, correct?
That's correct.
And at one point, actually, he was your prime suspect in this case, correct?
Yeah, I'd say so. He was definitely a person of interest at that time, yes.
At about 6 a.m., I want to move on from this now, and I want to talk about the task force that was organized.
Okay.
I'd like to know a little bit about the mechanics of that and how it worked. Did that start when you contacted Detective Lieutenant Hankey of the Michigan State Police?
That's correct. On the 27th, yes, sir.
About 6 a.m. or so?
That's correct.
Okay. And was it through him that you organized the task force to investigate the disappearance of Jessica Heeringa?
Yes, sir.
Who was involved in that task force?
Initially, I contacted, at that time, he's now Chief Gale, but at the time it was Lieutenant Gale, so I informed him of what I found at the gas station. I cleared the scene probably around 4:30. Came back, and it was a determination between myself and the lieutenant that, we needed to continue the investigation. We contacted First Lieutenant Cam Hankey, who's now the inspector, Cam Hankey for the state police, and I explained to him what I had, and why I thought that, there was foul play involved. He immediately then, probably about 8:30, we got to the North Shores Police Department, where he sent now Lieutenant Rob Davis and then Sergeant John Forner. And then it kind of came from there. By 11:30, multiple people came in from different agencies to assist.
Were federal agents involved in that task force?
Initially, no. I'd say probably within 7 days, we did have somebody from the Secret Service that offered their services, and he came over to help.
So you did not contact federal authorities, they contacted you?
No, I don't know how, if I contacted them or not. I have had talks with them, and I had a meeting with them, I'd say probably 5-6 days after, probably after the 27th. They came to our department. There's 2 FBI agents. And I went over the case at that time, or what I had and what was going on.
What was their involvement?
Very little, if any. They told me that, from my recollection, they told me that I'd have to prove that Jessica was taken across state lines or that she was a juvenile for them to get involved. And she was not a juvenile. She was 25 at the time. And I couldn't prove that where she was at the time, whether she was up north or in Indiana. I don't know. I couldn't prove that to them. So at that point in time, their involvement was minimal.
Hey, would you explain to me the hierarchy of the task force? Like, where did the buck stop?
Judge, I'm going to object as to relevance.
Okay. The objection is to relevance.
Your Honor, I'm asking Lieutenant Casher who was in charge of this investigation and who was in charge of the task force and how things were organized. I think that's very relevant. I mean, that's why we're here.
I agree. I'll overrule the objection and allow the question. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. Did you remember my...
Yes. The hierarchy of police is no different than a lot of military, so I just kind of want to explain that here. You know, you're talking, I was kind of at the low end. I'm a detective sergeant at that time. I wasn't a lieutenant. So we had a lieutenant from the county sheriff's department, and we had my lieutenant ahead of me, who was my boss, which was John Gale, and at that time Chief Dan Shaw, who was not now, but he was the head of the Northern Shores Police Department. And then in came at that time First Lieutenant Cam Hankey. So they were ultimately in charge.
Was it ultimately in charge? Lieutenant Gale?
Well, Lieutenant Gale, and then you have, but Chief Dan Shaw, chief of our police department, because it's still our complaint.
Right. Northern Shores
complaint. So you're dealing with two different agencies of two different hierarchies, meaning the state police also came in. And you're dealing with First Lieutenant Cam Hankey, who, is also help running it. But the investigation itself was assigned to me. Okay. So.
Does everybody then report to you, all the various officers of all the different agencies?
A lot of them, yes.
But not all of them?
Well, I mean, the lieutenants and the chief and stuff did not report to me. I mean, I'm still under them.
No, I understand that during the normal course of your duties, but if they're looking into anything in this case, they report to you.
Yeah, well, they share the information, sure, yes.
Okay. I have an exhibit here for you. As part of the investigation, did you have, or I shouldn't say strike that, not did you have, but was there a victimology report done?
Yes.
What is a victimology report?
It goes through the behaviors, like, the physical makeup of a person, background, things that possibly could help later on down the line for us, identifications, that kind of thing, I guess.
Okay. About the missing person?
At that time it was about Jessica Heeringa.
Okay, what's the purpose of it?
Purpose to give us information, detailed information that could come from, that could help us at any time. I guess for behavioral science units also, just as much if we went to the federal or to the state police using that.
Okay. So there's information about appearance?
Tattoos, what they're dressed, how they're dressed, demeanor, background, meaning education level, religious, if they're religious or not, beliefs, their, family, different things that possibly could help. If we decided to use the behavioral unit with the state police, or the federal unit, they require stuff like that.
Okay. And you relied on the victimology report for furthering your investigation because it had information about Ms. Heeringa's lifestyle also, and her state of mind even.
Did I rely on that report itself?
Well, did it help? Is that why you had the report done?
Well, yes, I mean, I don't really refer to it a lot, but I did do it because it helps with, like I said, if we send it on to a behavioral unit, meaning the federal has a behavioral unit, so did the state police at one time. At that time they did. And, you know, it was encouraged that we fill that out. But through my own investigation, I did my own stuff.
May I approach?
You may.
I'm showing you what up north is defendant's exhibit E.
Okay.
Take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
Is that the victimology report?
Yes, sir.
Now, did there come a time when you were made aware by Mr. Dyer, I think he testified to it, that Ms. Heeringa kept a diary?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you see that diary?
Yes, sir.
Was it you that he gave that diary to?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember when that happened?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I remember it was winter out, and I went to the house on Adams Street to get the diary.
It was winter?
It feels like there was snow on the ground at the time. Yes.
Okay, so it must have been at least 7 months after her disappearance that he presented that to you?
That's correct. Probably so.
So this victimology report, do you recall when it was completed?
No, I do not.
Would looking at it refresh your memory?
Sure. Okay, May 22nd, 2013.
Okay. So any information gleaned from that diary was not used to create this victimology report?
No, sir.
So there's a tremendous amount of tips that came into Norton Shores, correct? Regarding
That's
this
correct.
case?
Yes, sir.
Through Silent Observer?
Different things. Silent Observer was set up to help us, but also we had our own phone lines set up, multiple phones where we had volunteers come in and work the phones for the first couple months.
Okay. And as early as May 10th, you had over 1,000 Silent Observer tips, correct?
That sounds about right.
Okay. Now, I'm guessing you can't possibly investigate all of those.
I did my best, but we're talking, the last I knew, there was probably over 2,500 tips.
Okay. Any idea what percentage of those you actually sent officers out to investigate?
Well, we closed out around 2,000 of them, so.
You closed out about 2,000?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how are they closed out? I mean, what does, you know, I've been given all the reports.
Yes, sir.
And they refer to many tips, but not nearly 2,000. So we heard from Officer Hare,
Corporal Hare. Yes, sir.
Yeah, about investigating a Silent Observer tip on Mr. Willis, where he just kind of tossed his notes in a basket and never wrote a report until 3 years later. Is that how they were all handled?
The Rapid Start system was brought in by the Michigan State Police, okay? And that was directed by Lieutenant Rob Davis at the time. He had some experience when it comes to this. I'll be honest, and I'll be the first one to tell you that I didn't have experience of something of this magnitude. That's why, as a leader and as a supervisor, you reached out to people that do have experience and do know what's going on that can help you. And that was one of my first calls, was to First Lieutenant Cam Hankey, who then got a hold of Lieutenant Rob Davis, who brought that in. The Rapid Start system, whether they use it now or not, I'm not sure, but at that time that's what we used. And he explained it to me because I did not know the volume, and I'll be honest with you, my inexperience, I would say, of the volume of tips that are going to come in, I wasn't prepared for, which I'm very thankful that, you know, we set this up.
The task force.
The task force, specifically Rob Davis. He told me what happens is it's not just notes. It is a paper. It's like a carbon copy, and they bring down, they attach it, they'll say tip, it starts off with 1, and then up through whatever the last number it would have been. But let's say tip number 1, silent observer. Send over to us. Whatever that tip is put on that sheet, the face sheet of what it is. We try to rank it as a task force, including myself, high, low, medium. And then if it's something that needs to be addressed right away, obviously it's a high, and then we assign it. It could be 1 officer, it could be 2 detectives at that time. They go out, they investigate it. The investigation comes back, and if it's needed more, they would inform us. They would say, hey, this is what we have, this is what we did, there's something more. It could be we have a problem where there's an issue, or we think that this person could be involved. So then we just devise a plan of what we have to do next. If it came back and they said there is nothing to this. We interviewed, we checked, we did background checks. We felt that there is nothing corroborating with this, dealing with the Jessica Heeringa case. They would write all that out, whatever it is, and they would put closed on it. Rob Davis, and then we assigned somebody else because he was getting so much, back that he has to type that in. The tip that you saw from Corporal Hare and Sergeant Baker was just that. So they wrote it all out. They didn't think there was too much more they could go on. They wrote that out on the slip. They put it in a basket, and then it's typed into the system. And it's a computer system. And it did exactly what we were hoping it would do. Meaning, 3 years later, it became relevant. That tip dealing with your client, Mr. Willis, became relevant. So then when I got the information that we had gone out and talked to him at one time, we pulled up the rapid start system, looked up his name. You can search by name, you can search by tip number, you can search by different things, and it pulls it up. That tip came up, and we saw who it was assigned to and what the statement said on that. And then from that point on, yes. So, yes, they put it in the basket, and it's filled out, and we have a computer system, rapid start system, that deals just with that.
Okay. Now, I've seen some reports that were almost contemporaneous with investigating a tip where the person was cleared, and they were very brief reports. Why would that happen instead of a situation where they put the carbon in the basket? Is it up to the individual?
No, it's not supposed to be, Mr. Ostica, and I agree. I mean, you live and learn from things, but people take the tips, and then they, you got road officers. I call them road officers. They're not really detectives. In meaning that we took people from the road. It might have been their days off, and said, hey, can you help out with these tips? And so with road officers, they're used to doing it one way in certain ways. They do it, and then they go on under a supplement, as you see under the original report. In our original report, we call it the RMS system. And under that RMS system, you add another supplement, and another supplement, and another supplement. Well, they're used to doing that, and that's how they did it. We had certain people that would be there for a week or two, and then, replaced with somebody else, because they have to go back on the road or whatever it is. So they might not know that that rapid start system was in place for that purpose. And they did it that way. And they were documenting it. They thought they were doing that right. And, the goal of rapid start system is so I don't have 2,500 pages or 3,000 pages of what you're reading. And that's the goal. The goal is to try to minimize or keep and concise with a report that is accurate and factual with our investigation that could help us lead to somebody in this disappearance.
Okay. Let's assume it's one of the basket cases. Who takes the officer's notes and enters them into the electronic system?
At that time, I remember it was Rob Davis and Todd Swanker.
Okay. 2 officers.
Yeah, because one, it was just getting overwhelming. So they would both type it.
Okay.
And they just type it verbatim. Sure.
And who categorizes them as high, medium, low?
We all do as investigators. We think that, that's something that should be checked into or is able to check into. I mean, I've had tips that range from we've seen Jessica in Arizona to we think that she's, in Russia, to, and some of these things are just, you can't do it. Or we saw a gray van, no plate, don't know who was driving it, up on, whatever road. Oh, those things are low, obviously, we can't follow up on that. I mean,
I understand that.
and so you rank it that way. If it's a plate number, or if it's a name that we can follow up on, then we kind of rank it up in a high area. And so it's something that you can follow up on it.
Do you know what rating, if I can call it that, the tip on Mr. Willis?
I think it was, off the top of my head, I think it was a medium.
Okay, moving on again. There were some videos on Grand Haven, video cameras on Grand Haven Road, businesses that captured a portion of Grand Haven Road, correct?
Correct.
And you, I don't know if you did, but you were, one of your other officers, went to business by business on North Grand Haven Road looking for surveillance videos that would cover Grand Haven Road for the period of time after 11 p.m. on April 26th, correct?
That's correct, we did.
Okay. And the reason why you did that was because of Ms. Follett and Mr. Barber saying they saw this van that drove by them turn right, in other words, north on Grand Haven Road, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You were able to locate some videos that did cover, and you think actually captured this van, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The old Homestead restaurant, bar, or
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
That
correct.
one? Boyer's Coins, further north by the cinema, I think?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And a mattress place. I don't know the name of that mattress.
Yeah, it's at the corner right there as you're coming out the Points Mall. It's just an old, yes.
Okay, so you received these videos and you wanted to follow up on identifying what that car was, correct?
That's correct.
So you actually showed these videos to someone with Chrysler, the Chrysler Corporation, correct?
Not me personally, but I did have it done, yes.
Do you know who examined the videos?
At Chrysler? Not off the top of my head, I do not know.
Okay, you don't know who sent them to Chrysler?
I think it was Special Agent Ryan Heathias from the Secret Service that did that for me.
I mean, would you believe me if I told you that the only place I saw anything about showing the videos to Chrysler was in one of your reports?
Oh, maybe, but I got it from Ryan Heathias. I did not personally show it to them.
Okay. But on or about May 8th, Special Agent Heathias, is he with the FBI?
Secret Service.
Secret Service. He did, at someone's direction, a cross-reference of Chrysler Town and Countries with cell phone usage around the Exxon station, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. Did you have him do that? Or did somebody else?
Well, everything under my direction is going to be that I did it. When it came to technical services, like Detective Sergeant McDonald and Special Agent Heathias, that's their specialty. So if they said, hey, this is what we should do, I wasn't going to argue with it. I'm like, anything that can help us locate Jessica Heeringa, I was all for it, yes.
But basically, you wanted to know what Chrysler Town and Countries were in the area of the Exxon station while they're using cell phones around at the time of her disappearance, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And on the same day, and this is May 8th, I believe, what's Officer Mack's name?
Sergeant Jerry Mack?
Sergeant Mack?
Yes.
Sergeant Mack did a cross-reference of, let me strike that and back up a second. by this time on May 8th, you had that cap, the laser sight cap, from the ground outside the Exxon station, correct?
Yes.
And you were able already to determine that that would fit on a laser sight for a Walther P-22, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So by May 8th, you had Sergeant, you or somebody, had Sergeant Mack, the same day that Special Agent Heathkes did his cross-reference, but you had Sergeant Mack do a cross-reference of Chrysler Town and Countries with owners of Walther P-22s in Muskegon County, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. To narrow the pool of someone that would own both.
That's correct.
And that same day, you also had Sergeant Mack do the same search, cross-reference owners of Chrysler Town and Countries with Walther P-22s in Ottawa County, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you heard the testimony, well, let me strike that. But this was after you had checked with Chrysler regarding the mysterious van in the video, correct?
I assume, I don't know the dates off the top of my head on that.
All right. One of those videos, I don't know if it's just one, but you were able to narrow the window when this could have happened through one of those videos, correct?
That's correct.
And one of them, I'm assuming it's Old Homestead, because it captured this van's right turn onto North Grand Haven Road from the service drive, correct?
No, that's not Old Homestead.
Or was it the mattress place?
That would have been like a mattress type place.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that Chrysler took its right turn at 11:04. Right?
Objection, it calls for speculation that in fact it was a Chrysler. That question does. If he wants to say silver van, but he's asking Lieutenant Casher to make a conclusion that it was a Chrysler Town and Country turning.
Okay. Mr. House?
I'm trying to get the timeline down, Judge. I'm not asking for, we've already testified about showing Chrysler the videos and doing the searches. I can rephrase. I'll rephrase.
Okay. I'll sustain the objection. Go ahead and rephrase the question.
The camera captured the silver van turning right, in other words, north on Grand Haven Road at 11:04 p.m. on April 26th.
Sounds about right, somewhere around there.
If I showed you your report, are you telling me you can't remember exactly?
No, if you're telling me, I know it's around 11:04, so.
Okay. If you want to confirm it, I have your
No, I believe you.
Okay. So we're dealing with a window now when Miss Mosley bought a lighter at 10:52.
That's correct.
And this van turning right on Old Grand Haven Road at 11:04.
That's correct.
I want to ask you if you could tell me, I know you searched, according to Officer Sparks, Mr. Willis's grandfather's house on at least 3 occasions, correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Willis's residence on Sheridan must have been searched a number of times.
Correct.
Do you know how many?
I believe 3. I'm not sure.
No sign of Miss Heeringa or her body, obviously. Right?
No sign of.
Okay. I mean,
Either
I'm
way.
not trying to be smart. I'm just.
No, I know. No sign.
Okay. Can you tell me where else was searched to try to locate her?
Mona Lake, Muskegon Lake, Grand Haven,
Hang on a second.
Holton.
Hang on 1 second. How were the lakes searched?
We've had one area we had some dive teams go out there and check. We had a specific area that we were kind of hoping because we had a tip.
Okay.
Grand Haven, over the overpass or just over the bridge.
And that was because someone found women's underwear, right? I think I remember that.
There's a couple of them. One, there was women's underwear. Another one says they found a cabin in these woods area. Another one says that there was a creepy guy that hangs out there.
Okay.
Up by Holton, Ravenna, behind the movie theater.
Are these all a result of tips?
Yes, basically tips that have come in. Ross Park, the end of the parkway near Lake Harbor Park, Hoffmaster Park, edge of Lake Michigan, Duck Lake. I mean, I could go on and on.
Okay, well, let's limit it then.
Okay.
What places that had some connection with Mr. Willis?
What connections did we have?
What places were searched? What pieces of property were searched?
Piece of
that had
property.
some connection with Mr. Willis.
Piece of property that was searched with the connection of Mr. Willis was up, I believe, off of like Sweeter Road. I don't know the exact location, but M120 area near Hart or by Hart. It was a hunting property that was backed up into that area.
Okay, so you had information that Mr. Willis did some hunting on that property?
That's correct.
Okay, and nothing was located there?
No, we did not locate anything.
Okay, what else?
I think that was really, well, we also checked and searched the Bloom residence and the old Bloom house.
Okay. An old residence that he...
The old residence, yes.
Okay. You remember what street that was on?
No, I do not off the top of my head.
All right. Well, you also checked railroad tracks.
Railroad tracks, yes, sir.
North of Mr. Willis's home, right?
Yes.
Property? Okay. Did you also search a cabin where you...
Massalona, yeah.
Where?
I think it's Massalona.
Where Mr. Willis would vacation and play cards and stuff?
That's correct.
Okay. Any, basically any property that you had any information of him visiting or having any connection with, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I didn't mean to be smart with that. You didn't find anything, but...
No, we did not.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to get a note. Were you aware that Mr. Willis was going to be arrested on May 17th, ahead of time?
No, sir, it was not.
Were you aware, was he a suspect in the Jessica Heeringa disappearance before his arrest in connection with this alleged abduction?
No, sir, it was not.
Okay, when did it come to your attention that he may be a suspect? Do you know?
When did it come to my attention?
Yeah.
It came to my attention where everything became relevant to me was when he was arrested. Detective Sergeant Sparks contacted me and said that he had just inventoried or searched the van, and I needed to get over there. Found a gun, and the gun had a serial number that was filed down, which went to the State Police Crime Lab, which then ultimately went to Ms. Shantala. And it was found that there was a laser sight on that gun. In the process, when it came even more so with that the laser sight was missing, she did have a laser sight, and the laser sight is found, knowing that the connection with a silver van is there, and then the statement that was made to him, to Corporal Hare and Sergeant Baker, and we got there under the search warrant, reviewed his cell phone call records. I felt that he is a suspect in the Jessica Heeringa disappearance.
I just wanted to know when that came to your attention.
They all came within a week. I mean, I'll be honest with you, Mr. Hostek, my team members could tell you right now that I'm a very stubborn person. I let the evidence speak for itself. I don't jump in and get all excited because somebody sees a silver van, because I've heard about the silver van, a silver van, and a creepy guy for 3 years and 3 months and 16 days, whatever it is. So I let the evidence itself speak to me. And that evidence is undisputable to me, and I had to take Mr. Willis as a very serious suspect in the disappearance.
I don't question And I'm not trying to trick you. I just wanted to know when he first was a suspect. That's all.
I'm just saying.
If you don't remember, you don't remember.
I'm trying to give you a timeline, and it's probably within that first week then, when that stuff started coming back, or the first month.
Okay. I was going to ask you about some details of his arrest and what you do and all that, but you didn't have anything to do with it.
I had nothing to do. I was not there.
I have to ask you this, though. You were involved from the very beginning, the very night she disappeared. Okay? You saw me asking these questions of Corporal Hare. What I'm wondering is why you waited until May 8th of 2014, almost 13 months after the disappearance, before you wrote your first report in this case.
I'm not sure I understand. You mean what Corporal Hare wrote?
No.
Or what I wrote?
What you wrote. Your first report in this case is dated May 8th.
That's correct.
At least the first report that I...
No, you're right.
It's May 8th of 2014.
Yeah.
Why did it take you 13 months before you wrote your first report?
Well, my first report is not written like always. It's also I put it on a Word Perfect. Okay, that's to transfer over into the RMS system. That's when I do it. I will be totally honest with you. Is you take your notes, you go over things, you record stuff. So for the refreshment of going back over stuff, you are so busy. And you are not like a road officer, meaning a patrol officer, which I'm back into the road patrol unit. But patrol officers go out, take the 911 call, as we all have seen, and they go back and they type it out, and it's done. Detectives is a different world, a different work, and it's continuous. And you're backing up, and you're looking for something, and you are checking, and you're verifying. People will tell you this, Mr. Ostica. They'll tell you, I saw this person. I saw it happen. And then you go back and you really confront that person, or you get a tip where they said, I saw John Doe do this to Jessica Heeringa. And you go to John Doe, you go to that person, and they go, well, really, I didn't see it. That's what a lot of stuff is, a lot of things. And you have to verify it, go through it, and then you have to corroborate their statements. And it's a continuous. And I'm going to tell you right now, I like our reporting system in a lot of ways, but the RMS system, that's the reporting system that I keep referring to. You write a report, you write a supplement to it, and then you submit it. And if somebody else writes a supplement or does something, the 5 supplements could go, and then all of a sudden you're picking up where you left off. It could be 15 pages later. It doesn't make sense. I don't like that.
Okay.
I like it in order when I'm referring to my report. So when you see that report, it's a continuous pattern of what had taken place.
Okay.
So I the best I can tell you is, yeah, it's just time consuming, and you're building that time. We didn't have anybody under arrest. We didn't, I had, as you mentioned, 3, 4, 5 different suspects, and we're running around trying to see if they're valid suspects. So it's part of the investigations.
After May 8th, you were pretty prolific with getting the...
Yeah, you're catching up.
Right.
But on top of that, I'm going to let you know, and this isn't excuses. I'm sure that most people will find it as excuses, but this was not my only case. This wasn't my only duty. It was the Jessica Heeringa case. During that time, we had a shooting at a hotel. We had a double stabbing at a bar. We had 3 or 4 armed robberies. We had multiple CSC type complaints. So you're shifting back and forth. On top of that, vacations and everything else. All I can tell you is that's you're up and running most of the time. And the same with this job right now. I think you made a statement that you received 14 or 15 supplements from me in the last month. Yeah, that's exactly what happened when Mr. Willis was arrested, and it became apparent to me as an investigator for the Heeringa case, and I'm only speaking with the Heeringa case, is that Mr. Willis had some things I had to check into. But my lieutenant duties don't stop, unfortunately. I have to keep going with them, so you're back and forth. And sometimes when I do my reports, they're at home. They're on personal days. Or I'm sitting in an ice rink. I'm supposed to be watching my kid play, and I'm on a laptop typing it.
Okay. Well, what do you rely on your recorded statements?
Some recorded, a lot of them are handwritten.
Okay.
A lot of handwriting.
Your handwritten notes and your recordings are how you remembered the things you did back the year before during the course of this
Well,
investigation.
some of it, yes. But you gotta also remember, I'm typing up things too. I'm typing it. I'm just not submitting it. That's all.
What happens to your notes, your handwritten notes?
I might have some, but once it's done, I either you shred them or you tore them up or whatever it is. That report is my final. That is my notes. That is my everything.
Okay.
I don't keep my notes for
I'm
any
sure it
reason.
is, but if you have any of your written notes left, would you preserve those for the
Not
prosecutor?
really, no. I don't preserve it for the prosecutor, no. I never have. In 26 years as a police officer, I've never preserved my notes for anything.
Okay. And the same goes for all those silent observer notes that went into the basket. Those were basically shredded.
Yeah, because when it goes into the system itself, I mean, that's how we look things back up.
Okay, but didn't you say that you might have some of your notes left?
I could, Mr. I don't want to sit up here and say I don't have anything left, but I could have some. I mean, are you talking from May 8th of 2013 or whatever it is? I'm sure I still have some notes around.
Okay. If you do, would you preserve those?
Are you asking me to preserve them? I will.
Okay. There's testimony from Corporal Hare about Mr. Willis's phone. First of all, as far as you know, and I think he said this too, Mr. Willis cooperated with the officers when they arrived at his house back on I think it was May 8th, 2013, to the best of your knowledge, correct?
I didn't hear anything different, no.
I believe he's testified that Mr. Willis brought to Norton Shores a broken phone. You heard that testimony, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But the truth is, when the phone was brought to Norton Shores, it was working, correct?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, Norton Shores wrote a letter to Boost Mobile. Norton Shores Police Department wrote
Yes,
a
sir.
letter to Boost Mobile. Are you aware of that letter?
Yes, I am.
Ma'am, I'm showing you what I've marked as defendant's exhibit F. Would you take a look at that? Look up after you've looked at it, because I need to read a piece of it.
Yes, I know. I gave that to you.
Okay. Yeah, you did. Why write this letter to Boost Mobile if he brings in a broken phone?
I don't have that information of why. I know Detective Sinclair was trying to download it. I didn't know if a complaint came through or whatever. I thought that it was on behalf of Mr. Willis, for all I know. I don't know.
Okay. It says that while the phone was in your possession, it did not appear to be functioning properly, correct?
If that's what it says.
Okay. Well, you want to look at it?
No, I'm agreeing with you if that's what it says. I don't know.
Okay. And are you aware of a report by Detective Sinclair where she said the phone worked until I took the battery out of it?
No, I'm not. I'm not aware of that report, the supplement.
Also, Corporal Hare testified that Mr. Willis's van had vacuum marks and smell of cleaning product, and that Mr. Willis had just had his van detailed, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You spoke with Charlene Willis, Mr. Willis's, Jeff Willis's wife, at the hospital. So I think it was October something, where she in fact confirmed that he did have the van detailed one time since it was purchased, correct?
That's correct.
Well, I guess it doesn't matter. I was going to say hearsay, but go ahead. I'm cool. I'm good.
She confirmed to you that the van had been detailed one time since it was purchased.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you were able to determine that the date that Mr. Willis got his van detailed was June 12th, 2013, correct?
That's correct.
Over a month after Corporal Hare's visit to Mr. Willis's house.
That's correct.
Now, the last thing I want to ask you about remember the first witness that was called, Brenda Nestor. Remember her?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. She testified that she went to the Exxon station the night before Miss Heeringa disappeared, about 10:30 at night. Remember that?
Yes, sir.
She testified that Mrs. Heeringa was working and Mr. Willis was there and gave her the shiver. Remember all that?
That Miss Heeringa gave Miss
Miss
Heeringa.
Heeringa shivered.
Okay. Yes, I do remember that. Yes.
You know that's not true, don't you?
No, I don't know. That's not true.
You don't know that's not true?
No.
Well, as part of your investigation, did you ever get a hold of the work schedule for Exxon?
Yes, sir.
You did?
Yes, sir.
Showing you what I marked as Defendant's Exhibit G.
Okay.
That's the work schedule for Exxon the week she disappeared.
Yes, sir. I gave that to you.
Yeah. Well, then you know Jessica Heeringa was not working the night.
No, I do not know that.
Look at the schedule.
I'm looking at it. I do not know that, though.
Is there a work schedule on there?
Yes. The work schedule is right here, but you're asking me a question that I know that she did not work. You're talking Thursday the 25th. That's correct?
Thursday the 25th is on that schedule.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
But I don't know that she wasn't working that time.
Okay. Is she on the schedule for work middle shift?
No, she is not.
May I approach?
You may.
This is the 25th?
That's correct.
This is Jessica Heeringa?
That's correct.
Doesn't it show a work schedule from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m.?
6:56. Yes. 6.
6:56 is when she punched out.
That's correct. Well, she didn't punch out, but yes.
Okay, she worked until 6:56 that day.
Well, I don't know that.
Did you get this from the owner of the Exxon station?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And this is when you asked specifically for the work schedule for Jessica Heeringa, right?
Yes, sir.
And this is what he gave you.
That's
You're
correct.
saying this is not correct?
I didn't say that's not correct. You're asking me, do I know she punched out at 6 o'clock? And I'm saying I don't know that.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Because I contacted Ms. Tran, and she can't remember. She thinks that Jessica took over those hours for that night.
Okay. But you interviewed Deborah Nestor, Brenda
That-
Nestor.
Yes, sir.
You did the interview.
Yes, sir.
And she told you she didn't see her that night. She told you she saw him when she first dropped off her friend, not at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, at 6, correct?
No, she said at 10:30 that she was in the gas station and she saw Mr. Willis there and saw Jessica. And that's why I contacted Ms. Turan to verify, to say, okay, maybe there's a mess up. Maybe Miss Nestor is wrong. Ms. Turan told me, who was supposed to be working, that she knows that she had switched hours or gave up her hours. And she wasn't sure if it was that night. And I was going over it, but she cannot be positive. But she knows that there was a party that she was attending, and that would probably be the night. So Jessica, and I contacted Dakota. Dakota said also that he does remember her being late a couple of times because she picks up more hours.
Did you ask the owner of Exxon what the handwritten times are after the normal schedule?
No, sir.
You didn't ask them what the 6:56 was?
No, sir.
Okay. But you will agree with me at least that the schedule shows she was not working that night.
It shows that she shouldn't be working. Yes, Ms. Turan should have been. Right.
I have no further questions, Judge.
Just a couple of real quick follow-ups here, Judge. Let me get to I just had a couple of things I want to follow up with you, Lieutenant Casher. Robbie Follett, he provided an alibi, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you investigated that alibi
That's correct.
and proved it to be true?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Objection. Speculation, Judge, proved to be true.
Let me ask it this way.
I'll sustain the objection.
Let me ask it this way. In your years of experience investigating crime, you often hear people say, look, I wasn't there. It's not me.
Yes, sir.
And then they provide names, addresses, places, people to confirm that they were at the place at the time of the crime. Is that accurate?
That's true.
And was that true in the case of Robbie Follett?
Robbie Follett, we followed up on a couple of his alibis that placed him, also dealing with his cell phone pings, and then also with a video that showed him up at Myers by Reese Puffer up in that area at around 10:40 that night. He also had a different vehicle. He has a dark-colored Blazer, not even close to being a minivan. So there's a lot of things that ruled out Robbie Follett.
All right. Were you satisfied as the lead investigator in this particular investigation that he was not a suspect?
I was satisfied after our investigation was done with Robbie that he was no longer a valid suspect.
Now, as it relates to the videos at the old homestead in Boyer Coin and the mattress place that Mr. Hostka was asking, the van, from your view of the videos, from the mattress store to Old Homestead to Boyer, that's a vehicle traveling north on Old Grand Haven, is that correct?
That's correct.
And in that vicinity, there's a particular interest or house of interest on Bailey, is that correct?
That's correct.
Which house is that?
3038 Bailey.
And did you happen to actually drive that distance from the Points Mall to Bailey?
I did.
And roughly how long did it take you?
Probably about 12 minutes going the speed limit. About that time, 11 o'clock at night.
Now, the questions as it relates to looking at registered gun owners and Chrysler Town and Countries, that was the cross-reference that was being asked of you. That was done back in 2013.
Yes, sir.
Now, in order to do that, a gun has to be registered, is that right?
That's correct.
In other words, if I own a gun and I register it, law enforcement has access to the fact that I have what kind of gun I have and that it's registered to me.
That's correct.
You don't have that information if, in fact, that gun is not registered.
That's correct.
And in the course after Mr. Willis was arrested, were you able to verify whether or not he actually had a P-22 registered in his name?
He did not have a P-22 Walter registered in his name.
And, okay. Finally, this conversation that Corporal Hare and Sergeant Baker had with the defendant back in May of 2013, is it safe to say they actually asked to see the cell phone on that particular day?
Objection. I don't believe this officer was present. Hearsay.
Well, let me ask you this. I'll do it this way.
Sustain the objection. Sounds like you called for hearsay.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Did they get the phone that day?
No, sir, they do not.
When did it come into the PD?
Next day, I believe.
And do you recall, or were you part of any conversation as to why it wasn't given the day it was asked for?
Objection. Same objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
I'm asking if he recalls, him personally, for personal knowledge.
Okay. He can answer it if he has personal knowledge. If it calls for the testimony of another person, that's going to call for hearsay.
That the phone wasn't available at the time.
Last question before I forget. You've lived and breathed this investigation for over 3+ years. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And in those 3+ years, I know you've testified to this, you've interviewed a lot of people.
True.
And as you've testified in the early stages of the investigation, there were some people that were persons of interest.
Absolutely.
And as you indicated, you didn't jump to conclusions the first day that the defendant was arrested.
No, sir.
In fact, he wasn't even on your radar screen at that point in time.
That's true.
As the evidence kind of flowed in and you started seeing what investigators are uncovering, I believe you testified that that's when Mr. Willis became a pretty strong suspect.
For my case,
your
yes,
case.
sir. Yes, sir.
As you look through all the people you talked to, even the persons of interest, can you tell the judge where Mr. Willis fits on that spectrum?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. I think that he's asking the officer to give his opinion as to guilt or innocence in this case. Basically, it's a veiled way to do that. I think that's for the trier of fact to decide, not for this officer to give his opinion as to who's more guilty than others in his eyes. I don't think that's a proper question.
I did not ask that question. I didn't ask whether or not he felt Mr. Willis was guilty or innocent. I asked how he fit on the spectrum of the people that he'd been investigating throughout the 3.5+ years, including the persons of interest, where he fit on that spectrum.
And how is that relevant to your determination of probable cause?
Well, it's relevant in the sense, Judge, that, again, lead investigator, there's been a lot of questions by Mr. Hostiga about various people and their whether they were persons of interest and whether or not they were potential suspects. And in my opinion, that opens the door to put Mr. Willis on that spectrum, that same spectrum.
Right. I have to be with Lieutenant Casher on this. The evidence speaks to me. And Lieutenant Casher's personal opinion of where Mr. Willis fit on the spectrum is not relevant to me. So I'm guided by the evidence, not Lieutenant Casher's opinion about that. So I'm sustaining the objection.
I have nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Hostiga, any other evidence?
Yes. Thank you, Lieutenant.
You're welcome. May the lieutenant stand down?
Yes.
All right. Is he excused as a witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So you're excused, Lieutenant.
That's it. Thank you.
Defense calls Elizabeth Lunsford.
Yes.
Raise your hand. Matter of putting force court, you sign the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you out.
I do.
Have a seat and state your name and spell your last name.
My name is Elizabeth Lunsford. My last name is spelled Lunsford.
Good afternoon, Ms. Lunsford. Did you know Jessica Heeringa?
I did.
How?
We had become friends while working together at Sam's Joint when she was a bartender and I was a waitress. about 7 years before the incident,
Okay.
or so.
Did you maintain a friendship with her throughout those
On and off.
7 years? Okay. How well did you know her?
Pretty well. I've called her my best friend, although we weren't extremely close either.
Okay. You weren't extremely close with her?
I guess as far as a girlfriend, she was the closest one I had, but we weren't so close that I knew everything about what was going on in her life. But we were pretty close, yeah.
Fair enough. Around the time of Jessica's disappearance, were you guys in the same status, friends?
Yep.
You consider her your best friend?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Did you ever visit her at the Exxon station?
I did.
Do you know if she liked working there?
She did. She enjoyed her job.
Okay. Did you also spend time with her outside of her job at Exxon?
Not during that time so much. She, her boyfriend didn't like me hanging out with her, and so it was more of a secret when we hung out. So I just visited her at the gas station during that time.
Okay. Boyfriend being
Dakota.
Dakota Dyer.
Yeah.
Okay. How often would you visit Miss Heeringa at the Exxon station?
I would say roughly once a week. Sometimes more, sometimes less, but roughly once a week or so.
Okay. What time of day would you typically visit her?
Normally I get out of work at 7 and I would visit her after that, so usually in the evening.
Okay. After 7 p.m.?
Right.
Where did you work?
Area 51 Tattoo, downtown Muskegon.
Okay. And at that time, it was just you and her hanging out at work, her work, not outside of work at all?
Right.
Okay. How long had that been the situation?
About the last year or so. Before that, we kind of lost contact for a little bit, so about the last year before it happened that we were hanging out there.
Okay. Did you know anything about Jessica's personal life?
A little bit here and there. I feel like I knew a lot about what was going on with her social life at the gas station more than her boyfriend Dakota did, and probably a lot more than some of her family did too. So.
Why do you say that?
Just as she kept a lot of that secret from them. I think it was, she felt like that was sort of her life that she could have outside of her home life. So it was kind of like two different worlds, like two different lives she had. So a lot of the stuff that happened at work, I feel like she could have kept separate from her family life.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you this. Get this right out there, and I know you've been honest about it before, but I have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had struggles with substance abuse?
I have.
Okay. And what sort of substance abuse issues?
I've struggled with opiate addiction for about the last 10 years of my life, on and off.
How are you doing now?
Right now I'm seeing a Suboxone doctor, which is like a withdrawal treatment medicine, and I'm on that. So I've been doing good for about the last 8 months. Good.
Okay. We've heard that Jessica had an issue with drugs also. Do you know anything about that?
Jessica was, I guess, what I would call like a party girl. She would kind of do, if you had something in the room, she would do it, So I never felt like she had a substance that she was really addicted to. But yeah, she kind of would do whatever. So.
What did you guys do when you hung out at the Exxon station?
Usually just hung out, talked, smoked cigarettes in the back sometimes, and.
Okay. How long would you usually stay when you?
Usually roughly an hour or so.
Okay. Did you guys ever do drugs when you were there?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of drugs?
I brought heroin to her at the gas station.
Judge, I guess we should probably take a time out there. I mean, she's admitting to a crime.
Yeah, I think we need to address this, Mr. Hostka. You're asking a direct question of a witness who has not been advised of her Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination.
Can we have a sidebar on that, Judge?
Yes,
I think I have an answer
surely
for
can.
you.
Yeah. So, I want to make sure I get this right. Is it Miss Lunsford?
Lunsford.
Lunsford. It's L-U-N-F-O-R-D?
Correct.
All right. So, Miss Lunsford, Mr. Hoskett has asked you a question that I agree requires me to advise you of your Fifth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the State of Michigan. You have a right not to testify in a way that would incriminate yourself as having a criminal offense. You understand that?
Yes.
You have the right to the assistance of a lawyer before you testify. I would appoint a lawyer at public expense if you couldn't afford to hire one before you testify. So I want to be clear about that. Do you understand those rights?
Yes.
All right. Now, having those rights in mind, do you want to proceed, or would you like to talk to a lawyer, or I have to advise you of that.
I guess, am I allowed to just plead the Fifth on that question?
Well, no, you can't do that.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe I feel like maybe I should talk to a lawyer then. I'm not sure.
Pleading the Fifth Amendment means that you elect not to testify at all.
Oh, okay.
Right? But if you waive that right, then you're subject to cross-examination and examination on all matters. Once you waive the right, it's waived in total. You can't reserve part of it and,
Right. Okay.
and give up part of it. Understand?
Right.
All right. So having those rights in mind, what is it that you'd like to do?
I guess I would like to talk to a lawyer.
Very well.
May I say, at this point, Your Honor, that I will not ask her any more questions, about that. We'll just move on to the night in question.
All right, well, we've kind of crossed the bridge here. So, having those rights in mind, what is it that you want to do at this point?
We can proceed if he doesn't want to continue talking about that.
Okay. Well, it's like I said, you can't reserve part of the right and then
Right.
him ask a question and 5 questions down the line and say, now I want to assert
Right.
that right again.
I understand.
Understand?
Yep. Yes.
All right, Mr. Hilson, anything on this matter?
Well, Judge, look, I guess I have to trust that Mr. Hoska isn't going to ask any questions that incriminate this witness. I mean, the court's brought it to her attention, and certainly she's not as versed as we are as lawyers in that area. So, I mean, I'm okay with it continuing forward, but knowing what I know, there are areas that he could ask, and I'm just trusting as an officer of the court that he's not going to go into those areas, knowing that her desire is not to say anything that might incriminate her in a criminal matter unless she consults with a lawyer.
All right.
Well, I'm saying as an officer of the court that I will not ask any questions that would pertain to any drug use or anything incriminating.
All right. Ms. Lunsford, you understand what's happening?
Yes.
Kind of a lot to take in.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to, again, advise you that you have those rights that I previously put on the record, and I'm going to ask you where you stand on it. Do you want to testify, or would you like to consult with a lawyer?
I'd just like to continue.
All right. All right, Mr. Hostica, then, as an officer of the court, I'm taking at your word, and
I will not lay it down.
I believe that Ms. Lunsford was pretty clear. She wanted to assert her Fifth Amendment right if the questions were in the area of drug use, drug delivery, and the like. Is that right, ma'am?
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm striking the answers. I'm striking the answers then.
Okay. I think you said you guys would hang out and smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Would you hang out inside the station or outside the station?
Both. Yes.
Okay. You'd smoke inside?
No, we smoked just out the back door.
Okay. This was usually at night?
Yes, usually towards the evening.
Okay. And when you go out, there's only one back door to go out, right?
Yes.
When you go out there, would you guys have there was a light on above the door, right? Or there is a light above the door?
I believe so.
Okay, would you turn off the light or leave it on when you guys go out there and smoke?
I believe it was usually on.
Okay. Were you at the Exxon station the night of her disappearance?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall when you got there?
It was roughly 7:30.
Okay. Was that after you got out of work, like the usual routine?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recall when you left?
Around 8:50. I believe it was 8:52 when I looked at the clock as I was leaving.
8:52?
Yes.
What clock did you look at?
My clock in my car.
Okay. How was Jessica that night? What was her demeanor like?
She seemed normal. Talked about the normal things we normally talk about, so it seemed pretty basic.
Okay. So you're there roughly an hour and a half, a little bit less.
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever witness, I know you said you'd visit her at least once, maybe more times a week. Were you ever a witness to any confrontations or arguments that she got into when she was working?
Once with her boyfriend, Dakota, who had come up to the gas station, and he had a dislike for me, and there was a large confrontation between those two, yelling and screaming in front of customers, but that's the only one I recall.
Okay. Are you aware of her ever having problems with any particular customers?
I do remember her once saying that...
Objection, hearsay.
Are you aware or not? You don't have to tell me what she told
Yes.
you. Okay. Was this on one occasion that you became aware?
Yes.
Okay. And how long before her disappearance did you become aware of this?
I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks beforehand.
Okay. Never heard anything more about it, though?
No.
Okay. How would you describe Jessica's emotional well-being at the time of her disappearance?
She seemed to be happy. She's a very positive person, despite the fact that I don't believe she wanted to be living with Dakota. She didn't like her situation.
Objection. You can't ask an open-ended question like that. I mean, it's hearsay. Yes, sir, Judge.
I think the witness is definitely in the area of offering hearsay testimony. I don't know if you were intending that, Mr. Hostiger, or not by your question, but it definitely was getting into the area of course, statements offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. So I'm going to sustain the objection as to hearsay.
Okay. And let's put this another way. Were you ever witness to her upset at work?
Definitely there were, days where she'd had bad days or, fights at home where there were bad times that she was upset, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard before the obvious news beginning in, April or May of this year? Have you ever heard the name Jeffrey Willis before?
No.
Okay, you never heard it at the Exxon station?
No.
Had you ever seen Mr. Willis? This is Mr. Willis. Have you ever seen him before all the news reports of the...
Not that I know of.
Okay. And how long, I think you said about a year that you were hanging out at least once a week, maybe more at the Exxon station?
Yes.
Had you ever helped Jessica close?
Yes.
Okay. But you didn't on this night?
No, I think she wanted me to stay longer and maybe do that, but my boyfriend was waiting on me in Grand Rapids, so I was leaving. I needed to leave.
Okay. Was anybody else there when you left?
No, not that I know of. Oh wait, when I left, was there anyone else there? There was a guy that came that she kind of knew from coming into the gas station. He was there hanging out with us, and we left around the same time. So he was leaving. Other than that, I believe there was maybe a couple of other customers, one in particular. I do remember seeing her talking to someone out in the gas station, in the parking lot, at the pump, talking to a male through his driver's side window. So there was at least me and then the other guy who was leaving at the same time, and then at least one, if not two other customers.
I have no further questions, thank you.
Okay.
Just so I understand, Ms. Lunsford, you considered yourself a pretty close friend of Jessica's?
Yes.
I think you indicated, like a best friend?
Yes.
Talked about a lot?
Yes.
Shared a lot of details of your lives, both of you?
Yes.
I mean, it would be somebody that certainly if you had an issue, you would reach out to her?
Yes.
And vice versa, would she reach out to you?
Yes.
And have you seen Jessica since she disappeared in 2013?
No.
Has she contacted you in any way?
No.
Phone?
No.
Mail?
No.
Email?
No.
Text?
No.
You have not seen her since that day you essentially left at 8:52.
Correct.
Do you think that if she were alive, she'd contact you?
Objection. Speculation.
I don't. That's not speculative, Judge. Mr. Haska laid the foundation about what great friends and acquaintances they were. And I just expanded on that. They've talked about that they have. If she was in trouble, she would reach out to her, and vice versa. I'm not sure how that's speculative.
Well, it's speculation because he starts off the question with, do you think she would do this?
Well, the opinion of a lay witness can be given if it's under 701 of the Michigan Rules of Evidence, if it's rationally based on perception and helpful to a clear understanding of the witness's testimony or a fact and issue. And I think your cross-examination of Lieutenant Casher certainly raises that issue justifiably. I'm not saying it was not justifiable, but I'm just saying that Mr. Hilson asked what I think is a relevant question, and I believe based upon the foundation established through your direct examination of Mr. Hilson's cross-examination, this witness could give an opinion testimony pursuant to 701. So I'll overrule the objection and allow the answer. Go ahead.
Yes, I believe so.
If she were alive, she'd be reaching out to you in some fashion.
I believe so.
All right. Do you recall? You spoke to Lieutenant Cash, remember?
Yes.
Speaking with him. And do you recall basically telling him you felt that this was a random act?
Yes.
It had nothing to do with the drug world or anything of that nature?
Correct.
And is it safe to say that Dakota didn't like you very much because of your connection to the drug world?
Correct.
Objection, Judge. Are we crossing that bridge again?
Judge, she said that she's been a substance abuser of opioids. She admitted that over the last 10 years. I'm not asking whether or not she's engaged in any criminal activity. I'm basing my question off of her direct answer to Mr. Hostika's question.
All right, well, we're definitely bumping up to the same spot that Mr. Hostika had bumped into at that time, but I think Mr. Hostika did at the beginning of his direct examination ask about
battling substance abuse.
I agree. So I believe he somewhat opened the door to a cross-examination question by his direct exam at the beginning of the direct exam.
And I'm not asking whether or not she's engaged in some sort of illegal activity, Judge.
So what exactly was your question?
My question was, is it true that Dakota didn't like you because of your connection to the drug world? That was my question.
Well, that's also speculation. She doesn't know what Dakota thinks.
Well, maybe they had a conversation about it.
Maybe, and it's hearsay.
All right, I'll let you attempt to lay a foundation to that, Mr.
Miss Lunsford, in her own mind.
Well, then why did he ask he asked the question?
I didn't ask a question about that.
He asked the question about whether or not Dakota liked. During the exchange, there was some exchange about her saying to him, he's asking questions Dakota doesn't like me.
I asked her why she didn't hang out with Jessica outside of work. That's what I asked. I didn't ask whether Dakota Dyer liked her.
And that
or
was
not.
her answer. That judge, he also elicited the argument that took place between Dakota and Jessica at the Exxon station, which she witnessed.
I'm looking back at my notes, and early on in the direct exam, Mr. Hostica, you did ask whether Dakota Dyer liked this witness or not, and I think her answer was that he did not like her. So I believe that the cross-examination question is relevant based upon your direct exam. You opened the door, and I'll allow.
I asked her if she liked working at the Exxon station, Judge. I have my questions right here.
Well, then it is what it is, Mr. Hostica. My notes say that she testified Dakota Dyer didn't like this witness.
She did say that, but I didn't ask her. I didn't open any doors to that. She volunteered that.
Well, no, you did ask. Did your boyfriend like her to hang out with Miss Lunsford? I've got it 2 times right back to back, Mr. Hostica. So if I'm wrong, the Court of Appeals or the Circuit Court will overrule me. But I'm going to go with this, that you opened the door, and I'll allow the question and the answer. Go ahead, Mr. Hostica. Go ahead, Mr. Hilst.
I think we've got the, I mean, I certainly can repeat it, but in your opinion, you felt Dakota didn't like you.
Yes.
And that's because of your connection to the drug world.
I feel like that was a big part of it.
All right. Thank you, Judge. I have nothing else.
All right, any redirect, Mr. Hostica?
No, Your Honor.
All right. I have no questions, ma'am.
Okay.
May the witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're excused, and you can stand down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional evidence, Mr. Hostica?
No, Your Honor. Defense rests.
All right.